Hello, my dear friends. Welcome again to another episode of our podcast here in the Word and the World. So, maayong aga, maayong hapon, maayong gabi sa inyo tanan. Kaga madamo kita sa pag-istoryahan sa sining nga mga tinion, pero we take it easy. We take it one topic at a time. So padayon kita nag-istoryahan or parayon naton pag-istoryahan ang sosyedad naton kag paano bala ang aton sosyedad or paano ang atong pagtuo naga-interact sa aton nga sosyedad kag kung paano man ang sosyedad naga-interact naga-impluwensya sa aton nga pagtuo kag kung paano naton gina-express ang aton nga pagtuo. Sa naligad nga mga sinimana, sa naligad nga duwa ka semana nga aton nga ginaistoryahan ini nga topiko, nakita naton nga ang kultura duha na siya ka pamaagi kung paano gina-influensyahan no? Or how is it influenced. The first one is the mind and the heart of the people. So we try to convince them by education. That's trying to appeal to the mind, and we also try to appeal to the heart by talking about stories, creating songs or movies that appeals to the heart, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, there is another way by which we influence culture, and that is by legislations or structures. Structures and legislations. Policies no? And offices. So, amo man na siya. Kung kaisa, kita sa simbahan, ang aton nga primary nga pamaagi is to change the mind and the heart, to appeal to the minds and the hearts of the people, because we believe that this is where conversion happens. Kag para sa aton nga simbahan niya, ginabatihan naton, ginakilala ginaton nga ang tao ya makasasala regardless kung ano na siya, whether ordained or not ordained, whether laity or cleric, no, pari man, obispo, santo papa, or laiko, makasasala kita tanan. Kag tuod na makasasala kita, ti we are prone to that because of propinquity, no, sa theology pa, our tendency or our ano gani propinquitas man nga sa may namin nga term nalipat ako gatigulang na our inclination yun pala no, our inclination towards sin, that's propinquitas or propinquity. Ti kita tanami ara sina paano nato na siya mabago? Of course by repentance, and repentance is in its concrete manifestation or expression among pagbago sa atong pangunahuna, pagbago sa atong tagipusoon nga liso kita halin sa singatawag nga sala kag nagapakagto kita sa Ginoo. Sa panganahon subong do ang repentance has become something nga do wala na ginahambalan no, kag do wala na gina-highlight kag the society has become more tawag sini vengeful and hateful. Subong niya revenge na dayon niya no, punishment dayon. When I sila nga second chances for those who are in power, but not second chances for the rest no? Na makita ta na for example sa sa pamulitika, sa for example sa United States no, kita nyo na, well, I don't know if you are pro-Trump or anti-Trump, pro-Biden or anti-Biden, but regardless kung ano man ang imong political inclination, but you can see that whoever holds power would immediately erase and go after those who were in power before but not in power now. Kaamo man na sa aton sa Pilipinas, kita naman na siya. Kung ara ka sa gahom, lagson mong imo nga predecessor presidente, hindi siya luyag kay CJ, who was that Chief Justice kani nga ingkwan nila for not having their anong tawag sini salin Was it, let me see. Nakalipato lang isa ako na. Akin nasulod mo lang sa ulo ko. Nag-impeach to bala during the time of Pinoy. Kasi ito may mga millions of dollars siya. Corona gali. Si Renato Corona. Oh, kahit hindi na namian si Pinoy kasi Corona was I think placed there by in power by Macapagal Arroyo. Te. Ano tabo? I-impeach. Si Pinoy naman, gibutang naman si Sereno. Si Duterte. Hindi na namian kay Sereno. Kundi dula man si Sereno. Yan. So it's something like that. And before, subungan din may na break ang kwano, na break ang tawag sini, ang trend. Usually pagkatapos ng presidente sa iya term, sigurado dalong siya sa prisuhan sang mabulo sa iya. Mana subo si Duterte wala ing ipapriso ya si Pinoy. Tiyan mo ng problema sa kwano sa aton pamulitika. Sa simbahan, well, there are also changes in power. Tilay-lain man na galing-lain naman yung mapamaagi. For example, ang mga teachings ng isa ka Papa, Santo Papa, ginabago sa madasong ang Santo Papa. No? And there seems to be no continuity. And there was a occasion of difficulties. For example, with the transition of Benedict and Pope Francis, no? Kahit lain man yan kay Francis, lain man yan kay Benedict, and there are so many controversies. Kaga even in the local context sa panahon ni Fortich, ang BEC or ang Katekisyanong Katilingban has been so predominant in the form of the expression of our faith, no? Grabe jay ang KK to, ang Katekisyanong Katilingban to sa panahon ni Monsignor Fortich. And when Monsignor or Bishop Camilo Gregorio entered into the picture, tilain naman niya. Ang natabo nga ang gibutangin naman niya ang mga charismatic movements, kaga there was a upheaval also during those times. So makita naton diri nga whoever the leader is, mayara siya nga iyaman nga perspective, mayara man siya nga panginoino, mayara siya pananawon. Most of the time, it would change, there would be education, changing of the minds and the hearts, no? So mga awareness campaign, mga teach-ins before. And at the same time, there will be structures. Tiyan mo na sa panahon ni Monsignor Fortich, for example, ni Bishop Fortich, may mga seminars, no? May mga teach-ins. Kapag tapos sina, may ara man siya sang structure. Pero na mga structure nga na, tiyan mo na mga BECs or the community organizing. Sa panahon ni Bishop Camilo, the same thing also. May mga seminars man, and so on. Pero ang yan mga structure ya is charismatic movement. Yan. Ang pamangkot subong na makita mo ang kung ano ang dalagan sa agenda sang leader. Depende sa iya nga mga ginaduso nga struktura kag ginaduso nga mga pagtulunan. As I said, you can see now the third point that I am trying to tell here. So, we have the changing of the influencing the minds and the hearts of the people. That's number one. Number two is structures that would support this change in the mind and the heart. But most of the time, it is the structures, particularly legislations and policies, that changes the mind and the heart. So kung tanaw mong duwa, do mas may kusog ang struktura kag legislations and policies. Because may power na yan mo. Basta structure na ganang istoryahan ta, may punishment na dayon da. Among delikado da, kaya nga pinahan da yun. May pinagin na iya. Basta polisiya ganiya, may aragin na all laws may ara gina siya sang clause on punishment. And that is delikado. Ang changing of the mind and the heart ya, ang Ginoo na konsensya na daya. Ang ato gina-appeal to conscience na. Pero ang structures, mga niya basta ganing leader, structure dahil nang iya ginakuan. Kuan na, delikado na. Kaya nga, delikado how. Kuan gina iya, puguso na ang klase sang pamaagi. Nga puguso. Kaya tungod, basta struktura gani, may punishment na dayon niya. Kung hindi kaya mag-change ang mind kag heart mo, konsensya mo yang imo da arbiter. Pero kung structures na, may policy na, ang hindi kaya magpati na, may penalidad na nada. And that's why I have been saying all the time, ang mga leaders nga structure dayon ang ginatuman, no? Or rather, ginauna, makuha na siya. Duduso na, doubtful, dubious. Which brings us to the third point in culture. Ano na third point? The third point is culture is not created nor changed by the masses. Kitabi nato no nga kung this is the fault according to James Davidson Hunter. Ato ginahambal ko diri is coming from a book in the thoughts of Davidson Hunter, no? Just in case na gusto niyo magbasa or magita sa nga libro, dira ko na ginakwa. Which brings us now to the third point. The third point of this author is who changes culture, who influences culture. Ang aton nga pangunahuna, ang aton nga ginapatihan nga kung ang kadaman, if we reach a critical mass of people who have the same mind and the same sentiments, we will change the culture. According to this sociologist, sala na. Hindi na isakto nga ang culture ma-change when there is a critical mass of people who will have the same minds, the same thoughts, and the same feelings and sentiments over certain issues or doing things. Hindi. It's the elite. It is those who are in power, few as they are, who changes culture. So, ang mga elite na yan, now, I'm not saying the elite nga mga manggarano na, but the power elite. So, it is not necessarily that they are the rich men and women of society. No, it's not necessarily, but it can be, most of the time, that those who are members of the power elite are those also who are wealthy people in society. Pero hindi lang amo na. There are also certain power elites that are not necessarily rich. And that, for example, the intellectuals na malang permi mo batian sa TV, sa newspaper, nga nagahanpang sa ilang opinions. Those, for example, in the universities, those who are heads of corporations, those who are heads of organizations, whether that organization is national or local. Basta those who are in positions of leadership, they are the power elites. And because they are in positions of power, by legislating or by creating structures, they can force or they can force and influence change to happen in the minds and the hearts of men and women or the masses. Kaga subong may araman elite, power elite nga hindi lang sa usual, normal or institutionals, like sa school, sa politics, sa government, or sa business, but even in social media. Sometimes ang social media abi naton nagagwa na ang mga issues hindi There are certain groups of people who are influencing the narratives. There are people who are few man na sila, but they are empowered by funds coming from certain sources. They have the ability, they have the talents, they have the influence, to change or rather guide, direct how people and what people are going to speak about or to think about. So you see, paano nag-influensya ng kultura? By creating images, by having slogans, no? By creating, by directing what are the topics to be discussed. Now, those things, by doing those things, you are actually influencing culture. You not only culture, you are not only influencing, but you're changing culture. So that's very important. Nga kita nga mga tumuluo, well, even if you are not a believer, that we are aware of who are the people directing the narratives. Sino ni sila ang naga-guide, sino nila naga-direct, sino nila naga-pili kung ano ang mga bagay-bagay nga istoryahan naton. Klaro man sa ato, for example, no, sa Philippines. Kita naton how narratives are changing. For example, kung may mga, for example, PhilHealth, may alleged corruption sa PhilHealth. Pero pagkatapos ato, nadula naman lang nga, nadula. Haging sa pawa naman sa bagong storya, itong White Sand to sa Manila to. After that, wala naman to. Wala, lipatan na, nabaon na sa kalimot. Nga, nag-amo na. Nga, mamatyagan nyo, do suba na, do baybay na iya nga, naga-eve and naga-eve and naga-saka ka, parang tubig mo lang, nagahunas ka, taob lang, nagahunas na sa nagataob, kaya may naga-direct na iya. That's why kung may mga issue da nga pagwaonda, kung kontra sa powers that be, sa power elite, change na nila. Either by silencing it or by changing the direction of the stories or misleading, or it's not necessarily misleading but changing the focus. So, we are now on the third element, no, of culture. So the first one is in terms of the mind and the heart, which was the most common understanding of how to change or influence culture by changing the minds and the hearts of the people. But this is in the long play ni siya, long run niya. Long term ni siya. Kag sa bagay, no, kung sige-sige imo bing duso sa pagbago sang pangunahuna katipos sang tao, in the long run it will pay. Pero it will be supported or sometimes superseded even by structures yan that would help change the mind and the hearts of the people. And these policies and structures are actually being selected, they are being guided, they are being formed by those who are in power, in positions of power, leadership, and influence. Di madamay nga salamat sa inyo nga pagpamati sa sini nga simana, kabay pa nga padayon ka mo magpamati sa aton diri nga podcast. This audio discussion naton. Kakabay pa you share it and please do comment, no? And then let me know what you think. Para mabalaan taman kung diin ang direksyon sang inyo nga pangunahuna da katay pusoon, so that we can also discuss that and be able to connect with one another. So again, thank you very much. Please share this audio podcast and thank you in advance. God bless us all.